Billionaire's son falls for a broke artist. His family's reaction is shocking. The evening buzzed with quiet energy as patrons milled about the small gallery tucked into a corner of downtown. The space, though modest, brimmed with vibrant artwork, each piece more daring and evocative than the last. Ethan Westwood stood near the entrance, his hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored coat. He had come here alone, needing a break from the suffocating world of boardrooms and expectations that defined his life. He wasn't quite sure what had drawn him in. Perhaps it was the banner outside, painted in bold letters, "Emerging Voices, a celebration of independent artists." Or perhaps it was the faint, gnawing feeling that something was missing in his life. A spark, a sense of purpose. As he wandered through the gallery, his gaze landed on a series of paintings that stopped him in his tracks. The pieces were raw and visceral, each brushstroke alive with emotion. They depicted ordinary scenes, a crowded bus, a rain-slicked alley, a woman staring out of a window, but there was something extraordinary in the way they captured the humanity of their subjects. "Beautiful, aren't they?" a voice said from beside him. Ethan turned to find a young woman with paint-stained hands and an easy smile. Her dark curls framed her face, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "They're incredible," Ethan admitted. "I've never seen anything like them." The woman grinned. "That's kind of you to say. They're mine." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "You painted these?" She nodded, brushing a curl away from her face. "I'm Mia. And you are?" For a moment, Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to introducing himself to strangers without the weight of his family name hanging over him. "Ethan," he said simply. "Well, Ethan, thanks for stopping to look," Mia said, her smile widening. "Most people just breeze past without really seeing." "I don't think anyone could just breeze past these," Ethan said sincerely. "They're stunning." Mia tilted her head, studying him. "You're not an art collector, are you? You don't have that look." Ethan chuckled. "No, just someone who appreciates beautiful things." "Good answer," Mia said, clearly amused. "Let me guess, first time in a gallery like this? Is it that obvious?" Ethan asked, embarrassed. "A little," Mia teased. "But don't worry, you're doing fine." They talked for a while longer, the conversation easy and unguarded. Ethan found himself drawn to Mia's passion and authenticity. She spoke about her art with a kind of fervor he rarely encountered in his world, where everything was measured in profits and prestige. Later that night, as Ethan walked back to his car, he couldn't stop thinking about Mia. There was something about her talent, her warmth, her determination, that had left an impression on him. He resolved to return to the gallery the next day. The Westwood estate was a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the gallery. The sprawling mansion sat on a hill overlooking the city, its perfectly manicured lawns a testament to the family's wealth and status. Inside, Ethan's father, Robert Westwood, sat in his study, poring over a stack of financial reports. "Ethan," Robert said without looking up as Ethan entered the room. "You're late." "I didn't realize we had a specific time for dinner," Ethan replied, taking a seat across from his father. "Punctuality is a virtue," Robert said curtly. "One you would do well to cultivate." Ethan bit back a sigh. Conversations with his father often felt like a lecture. "I was at an art gallery," he said, hoping to steer the topic elsewhere. Robert finally looked up, his expression one of mild disdain. "An art gallery? What on earth for?" "Because I wanted to," Ethan said, his tone firm. Robert shook his head. "You waste too much time on trivial pursuits, Ethan. You're the future of this family. The Westwood name carries responsibilities. And what if I don't want to carry it?" Ethan shot back, surprising even himself with the sharpness of his tone. Robert's eyes narrowed. "Don't be ridiculous. This isn't about what you want, it's about what's expected of you." Ethan stood, his jaw clenched. "Good talk it. I'm going to bed." As he left the study, he passed his mother, Eleanor, who was standing in the hallway. She placed a gentle hand on his arm, her expression concerned. "Ethan, try to be patient with him," she said softly. "He just wants what's best for you." "I know, Mom," Ethan said, his voice weary. "But sometimes I wish he'd let me figure out what's best for myself." The next day, Ethan returned to the gallery, hoping to see Mia again. She was there, setting up for a new exhibit. Her face lit up when she saw him. "Back so soon?" she asked, teasing. "I couldn't stay away," Ethan admitted. Mia laughed. "Flattery will get you everywhere." They spent the afternoon together, talking and laughing as Mia shared stories about her art and her life. Ethan learned that she worked as a barista to pay the bills and spent her nights painting in a tiny apartment she shared with a cat named Picasso. "And what about you?" Mia asked, her eyes curious. "What do you do?" Ethan hesitated. I work in finance?" Mia raised an eyebrow. "You don't sound too thrilled about it." "It's complicated," Ethan said, feeling a pang of guilt for not being entirely honest. "Let's just say it's not what I'd choose if I had a choice." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Well, I hope you figure it out. Life's too short to do something you don't love." Ethan smiled, her words resonating deeply with him. "You're right," he said. "I'll work on that." As the weeks went by, Ethan and Mia grew closer. They spent countless evenings exploring the city, sharing their dreams and fears. For Ethan, Mia was a breath of fresh air, a reminder of what it meant to live authentically. For Mia, Ethan was a kindred spirit, someone who saw and appreciated her for who she was. But as their bond deepened, so did Ethan's anxiety about the secret he was keeping. He knew it was only a matter of time before Mia discovered the truth about his identity, and he dreaded how she might react. That moment came sooner than he expected. One evening, as Mia was scrolling through her phone, she stumbled upon an article about a high-profile charity gala hosted by the Westwood family. Her heart sank as she saw Ethan's face in one of the photos, standing beside his father. The next time they met, Mia confronted him. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me who you really are?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I was afraid it would change how you saw me." Mia crossed her arms, her expression hurt. "Do you think I care about your money? All I've ever wanted is honesty, Ethan." "I know," Ethan said, his voice filled with regret. "I'm sorry, Mia. I never meant to hurt you." Mia looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "I need some time to think." Ethan nodded, his heart heavy. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." Mia spent the following days wrestling with her emotions. She had felt so connected to Ethan, but his deception had left her questioning everything. Was the man she had fallen for genuine, or had their connection been built on a foundation of lies? Meanwhile, Ethan found himself in a state of restless anticipation. He sent Mia a single text, "I'm sorry. I know I messed up. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here." After that, he gave her space, though every moment apart felt like an eternity. Ethan's inner turmoil didn't go unnoticed at the Westwood estate. Eleanor found him sitting alone in the garden one evening, his usual sharp suit replaced by casual jeans and a t-shirt, a rare sight. "Ethan, you look like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders," Eleanor said gently as she sat beside him. Ethan glanced at her, hesitating before speaking. "I met someone amazing. But I messed things up." Eleanor smiled softly. "Amazing, you say? Tell me about her." Ethan's expression softened as he spoke about Mia, her passion for art, her kindness, her ability to make him feel like he could truly be himself. But as he recounted the story, his tone turned regretful. "I didn't tell her who I was. I was scared it would ruin things, and now it has." Eleanor placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Ethan, love is messy, but it's also forgiving. If she's as special as you say, she'll see that your intentions were good." Ethan sighed. "I hope so." Across the city, Mia threw herself into her art, hoping to make sense of her emotions through the brushstrokes on her canvas. Her small apartment was cluttered with half-finished pieces, the vibrant colors reflecting her inner conflict. Picasso, her ever-loyal cat, watched from his perch as Mia paced the room, talking to herself. "Why didn't he just tell me?" she muttered. "Did he think I'd care about his money? Or that I'd treat him differently?" The truth was she missed Ethan. Despite her anger, she couldn't deny the connection they shared. Finally, unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, she grabbed her phone and texted him, "Can we talk?" They met at a quiet cafe, their usual ease replaced by an air of hesitation. Ethan stood as Mia approached, his heart pounding as she took a seat across from him. "I'm glad you came," Ethan said, his voice tentative. Mia nodded, folding her hands on the table. "I've had time to think, and I've realized something." Ethan braced himself, ready for the worst. "I was hurt because I felt like you didn't trust me," Mia said. "But I also understand why you kept it a secret. Your world, it's so different from mine. I can see how that would be scary." Ethan exhaled, relief flooding through him. "Mia, I trust you more than anyone. I was just afraid of losing you." Mia's expression softened. "You didn't lose me, Ethan. But I need us to be honest with each other from now on." "I promise," Ethan said, his voice firm. "No more secrets." They left the cafe hand in hand, the tension between them replaced by a renewed sense of connection. But Ethan knew that the hardest part of their journey was still ahead, introducing Mia to his family. Ethan decided to tell his parents about Mia over dinner. As he expected, Robert's reaction was less than enthusiastic. "A broke artist?" Robert said, his tone dripping with disdain. "Ethan, you can't be serious." "I am serious," Ethan said, his jaw tightening. "Mia is talented, kind, and driven. She's everything I've been looking for." Robert shook his head. "This isn't just about you, Ethan. Our family's reputation is at stake. Do you think people will respect you as the future of Westwood Enterprises if you're parading around with someone like her?" "Someone like her?" Ethan repeated, his voice rising. "Mia has more integrity and passion than anyone I've ever met. If you can't see that, then that's your loss." "Ethan, calm down," Eleanor interjected, her voice gentle but firm. "Let's not escalate this." "I'm not backing down on this, Mom," Ethan said, his voice resolute. "I love her, and I won't let Dad or anyone else tell me that's wrong." Robert's expression hardened. "If you choose her, don't expect my support?" Ethan stood, his hands clenched into fists. "Fine. I don't need it." Ethan moved out of the Westwood estate that night, carrying only a suitcase and a heart full of determination. He showed up at Mia's apartment, rain-soaked and visibly shaken. "What happened?" Mia asked, pulling him inside. "I told my parents about us," Ethan said, his voice heavy with emotion. "My dad, he doesn't approve. He said if I choose you, I'm on my own." Mia's eyes filled with concern. "Ethan, you didn't have to do that for me." "I didn't do it just for you," Ethan said, cupping her face in his hands. "I did it because I'm tired of living my life on his terms. I want to live it on mine, and I want to live it with you." Mia wrapped her arms around him, holding him tightly. "We'll figure it out together." The next few months were a whirlwind of change for Ethan. He found a modest job as a gallery assistant, a far cry from the luxury he was accustomed to. But for the first time, he felt a sense of independence and purpose. He and Mia shared her tiny apartment, their lives woven together in a way that felt both chaotic and beautiful. Mia's art flourished during this time, her work infused with the raw emotions of their journey. One of her pieces, a vivid portrayal of two hands intertwined, reaching toward the light, caught the attention of a prominent art dealer. Before long, she was offered a solo exhibit at a prestigious gallery. Ethan couldn't have been prouder. "You deserve this," he told her on the night of the opening, his eyes shining with admiration. "So do you," Mia said, squeezing his hand. "You've been my biggest supporter." Meanwhile, back at the Westwood estate, Eleanor watched her husband with growing frustration. Robert had become increasingly irritable, his anger at Ethan's defiance masking a deeper sense of loss. "Robert, you need to let this go," Eleanor said one evening as they sat in the study. "Ethan's happy. Isn't that what matters?" Robert scoffed. "Happy? How can he be happy living like that?" "Because he's with someone he loves," Eleanor said firmly. "You should meet her. You'd see what he sees." Robert looked at her, his expression softening for the first time in weeks. "You really think I should?" "I know you should," Eleanor said. "It's time to make things right." Robert Westwood spent the next few days wrestling with his pride and the uneasy feeling of distance from his son. He found himself sitting in Ethan's old room one evening, the silence amplifying the weight of his regret. On the desk, he noticed a sketchbook that Ethan had left behind. Curious, Robert opened it and was surprised to find pages of drawings, landscapes, portraits, and abstract designs, all filled with life and creativity. He ran his fingers over a sketch of a city skyline, realizing for the first time how little he truly knew about his son. The art seemed to reflect a part of Ethan that Robert had never taken the time to understand. For the first time, he questioned whether his rigid expectations had blinded him to who Ethan really was. "Eleanor," Robert said that night as they sat in the study, his voice uncharacteristically soft, "I think I'd like to meet Mia." Eleanor smiled, relief washing over her. "It's about time, Robert. You'll see, she's extraordinary." Eleanor reached out to Ethan the next morning, inviting him and Mia to dinner at the estate. Ethan hesitated, unsure whether his father's intentions were genuine, but Mia encouraged him to accept. "It's a step," Mia said. "If he's willing to meet, maybe he's willing to change." Ethan nodded, though his apprehension was clear. "I'll go. But only because you're with me." The night of the dinner, Mia wore a simple yet elegant dress, her nerves barely concealed beneath her calm exterior. Ethan held her hand tightly as they approached the grand entrance of the Westwood estate, the imposing facade a stark reminder of the world they were walking into. Eleanor greeted them warmly, her kindness immediately putting Mia at ease. "Mia, it's so lovely to meet you," Eleanor said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "Ethan's told me so much about you." "Thank you for having me, Mrs. Westwood," Mia said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "Please, call me Eleanor," she said with a smile. "Let's head to the dining room. Robert's waiting." When they entered the dining room, Robert stood, his expression unreadable. He extended a hand to Mia, who shook it firmly, meeting his gaze with quiet confidence. "Mia," Robert said, his tone measured. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me," Mia replied. "Ethan's told me a lot about you." Robert nodded, his eyes flicking to Ethan before returning to Mia. "I hope tonight gives us a chance to get to know each other." The dinner began awkwardly, the conversation stilted as Robert struggled to reconcile his preconceived notions with the woman sitting across from him. But as Mia spoke about her art and her journey, Robert found himself drawn to her passion and resilience. She spoke with an authenticity that was rare in his world, and he couldn't deny the positive impact she had on Ethan. "I have to admit," Robert said as the meal wound down, "I underestimated you, Mia. Your dedication to your art and your values is admirable." Mia smiled, her eyes softening. "Thank you, Mr. Westwood. And I have to say, I can see where Ethan gets his determination." Robert raised an eyebrow, surprised by the compliment. "Determination or stubbornness?" "Both," Mia said with a grin, earning a chuckle from Eleanor and a smile from Ethan. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere grew warmer. Robert even ventured to ask about Mia's upcoming solo exhibit, his curiosity genuine. "It's called Echoes of Humanity," Mia explained. "It's about finding beauty in the everyday moments we often overlook." "I'd like to see it," Robert said, surprising everyone at the table. "If that's all right with you." Mia nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "I'd be honored." The exhibit opening was a resounding success. The gallery was packed with art enthusiasts, critics, and friends, all captivated by Mia's work. Ethan stood proudly by her side, his admiration for her evident in every glance. To everyone's astonishment, Robert arrived with Eleanor, his presence commanding attention. He moved through the gallery with quiet curiosity, pausing to study each piece. When he reached the centerpiece, a painting of two hands reaching out to each other, their fingers barely touching, he stood silently for a long moment. "Mia," Robert said when she joined him, "this is extraordinary. The emotion, the connection, it's palpable." "Thank you," Mia said, her voice tinged with emotion. "That piece means a lot to me. It's about bridging divides, finding common ground." Robert nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You've done that tonight." Eleanor, who had been watching from nearby, stepped forward. "Mia, you've brought out something in Robert the first haven't seen in years." Mia smiled, glancing at Ethan. "Maybe we all had a hand in it." The night ended with a toast, led by the gallery owner, who praised Mia's talent and resilience. As the crowd applauded, Ethan leaned in to whisper in Mia's ear. "I'm so proud of you." "Thank you," Mia whispered back, her eyes shining. "I couldn't have done it without you." As they left the gallery, Robert approached Ethan, his demeanor uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Ethan," he said, his voice low, "I've been wrong about a lot of things. But I see now that you've found someone truly special. I hope you can forgive me for not seeing it sooner." Ethan's throat tightened as he looked at his father. "I appreciate that, Dad. And I hope you know that I'm proud of who I am, thanks to Mia." Robert nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "You should be." In the months that followed, the Westwood family began to heal. Robert, inspired by Mia's vision and Ethan's courage, launched a philanthropic initiative to support emerging artists, naming the program after Eleanor, whose quiet strength had held the family together through it all. Mia and Ethan continued to thrive, their bond stronger than ever. And while their journey hadn't been easy, it had brought them to a place of authenticity and connection that neither had ever imagined. At the first gala for the Westwood Art Initiative, Mia stood on stage, addressing a room full of artists, patrons, and supporters. Ethan watched from the front row, his heart swelling with pride. "Art has the power to connect us," Mia said, her voice steady and heartfelt. "It reminds us of our shared humanity and challenges us to see the world through new eyes. Tonight, we celebrate not just the art, but the people behind it. The dreamers, the creators, the storytellers. Thank you for believing in us." The room erupted into applause, and as Mia stepped off the stage, Ethan was there to meet her, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You were incredible," he said, his voice full of emotion. "So were you," Mia replied, her smile radiant. "We did this together." As the applause from the gala slowly faded, the night marked a new chapter not just for Mia and Ethan, but for the entire Westwood family. The Westwood Art Initiative gained national attention for its mission to support emerging artists, offering grants, mentorship programs, and opportunities to exhibit their work in renowned galleries. For the first time, the family name was associated not just with wealth but with a legacy of giving back. Robert Westwood, who once dismissed art as frivolous, now found himself sitting on panels alongside curators and philanthropists, advocating for the very thing he had once dismissed. His transformation wasn't lost on Eleanor, who often watched him with quiet pride during these events. One evening, as they sat in the study with glasses of wine, Eleanor turned to Robert. "You know, I never thought I'd see the day when you'd champion the arts." Robert chuckled, swirling the wine in his glass. "Neither did I. But seeing the impact it's had on Ethan, on Mia, it's hard not to believe in it." Eleanor smiled. "You've changed, Robert. For the better." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "And I have them to thank for it." Meanwhile, Mia's career continued to flourish. Her paintings were in high demand, with collectors vying for her pieces and critics praising her ability to capture raw emotion on canvas. Yet, despite her growing success, Mia remained grounded, often returning to the same small gallery where Ethan had first seen her work. One day, as she was setting up for a new exhibit, the gallery owner approached her. "Mia, there's someone here to see you." Mia turned to find a young woman standing near one of her paintings, her expression a mix of awe and nervousness. She approached cautiously. "Hi," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly. "My name's Clara. I'm an artist too, or at least, I'm trying to be. Your work, it's incredible. It makes me feel like there's hope for someone like me." Mia's heart swelled. She remembered what it felt like to be in Clara's shoes, filled with doubt but desperate to create. "Thank you," Mia said warmly. "What kind of art do you make?" "Mostly sketches," Clara said, her cheeks flushing. "I haven't shown them to anyone yet. I'm too scared." Mia placed a comforting hand on Clara's shoulder. "I know that fear. But trust me, sharing your work is worth it. If you ever want feedback or advice, I'd be happy to help." Clara's face lit up. "Really? That would mean so much." Mia nodded, her smile genuine. "We artists have to stick together." Ethan, too, found his own path within the art world. While he initially struggled with leaving behind the expectations of his family's business, he soon realized he could combine his background in finance with his passion for art. He began working with the Westwood Art Initiative to manage its finances and develop programs that supported artists like Mia. "I never thought I'd say this," Ethan admitted one day as he and Mia worked side by side in their home studio, but I actually enjoy this work. Helping artists find opportunities, it feels like I'm finally doing something meaningful." Mia smiled, leaning over to kiss him on the cheek. "I'm proud of you, Ethan. You found your purpose, and I have you to thank for that," Ethan said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You showed me what it means to follow your heart." At the next gala for the Westwood Art Initiative, Robert surprised everyone by stepping onto the stage to introduce the keynote speaker, Mia. He looked out at the crowd, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Tonight, we celebrate the artists who inspire us, who challenge us to see the world differently," Robert began. "But for me, this is also a night of gratitude. Gratitude for my son, Ethan, who showed me the courage to follow his own path. Gratitude for my wife, Eleanor, who has always believed in the best of us. And gratitude for Mia, whose passion and resilience have transformed not just our family, but countless lives." The audience erupted into applause as Robert stepped aside to let Mia take the stage. She stood there, momentarily overwhelmed, before finding Ethan's face in the crowd. His encouraging smile gave her the strength to speak. "Art isn't just about beauty," Mia said, her voice strong and clear. "It's about connection. It's about telling stories that resonate with people from all walks of life. Tonight, I stand here not just as an artist, but as someone who has been deeply inspired by the people in this room, by Ethan, who believed in me when I doubted myself, by Eleanor, whose kindness reminds me of the power of empathy, and yes, by Robert, who has shown me that it's never too late to change." Her words brought the audience to their feet, the applause thunderous. As she stepped off the stage, Ethan pulled her into an embrace, his voice filled with pride. "You were amazing." "So were you," Mia replied, her smile radiant. "This is our journey, Ethan. And we're just getting started." In the years that followed, the Westwood Art Initiative expanded its reach, becoming a global force for good in the art world. Mia and Ethan continued to grow together, their love a constant source of strength and inspiration. They often reflected on how far they had come, from a chance meeting in a small gallery to a partnership that had transformed not just their lives, but the lives of so many others. And Robert, once a symbol of rigid expectations, became a vocal advocate for the power of creativity and connection. He and Eleanor spent more time with Ethan and Mia, their family bond stronger than ever. One evening, as they all sat together in the Westwood Estates garden, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Robert raised a glass. "To love, to art, and to the courage to follow your heart. To us," Ethan added, his voice full of emotion. "And to the journey that brought us here." As their glasses clinked, Mia looked around at the faces of the people she had come to call family. In that moment, she knew that despite all the challenges, every step of their journey had been worth it. Years passed, and the Westwood family's journey continued to evolve in ways none of them could have anticipated. Ethan and Mia had settled into a life that blended their passions and newfound roles seamlessly. Their love remained the foundation upon which they built their dreams. Mia's art reached international acclaim. Her works were featured in exhibitions across the world, from Paris to Tokyo. Each painting told a story, often inspired by her journey with Ethan and the transformative power of love and resilience. Critics called her a visionary of the human experience, and she often humbly credited her success to the people who had supported her along the way. Ethan, too, found his footing as a leader within the Westwood Art Initiative. His innovative approach to managing the Foundation's programs ensured that emerging artists from underrepresented backgrounds had the resources they needed to thrive. His ability to connect with artists on a personal level made him a beloved figure in the community. One day, as Ethan and Mia strolled through a bustling art market in New York City, they stopped in front of a booth showcasing paintings by a young artist. The vibrant colors and bold strokes reminded Mia of her early days. "These are incredible," Ethan said, admiring a piece depicting a sunrise over a busy cityscape. Mia turned to the artist, a shy teenager named Elena, and struck up a conversation. It wasn't long before they learned that Elena had been saving every penny from her part-time job to buy art supplies, dreaming of one day being able to afford art school. "We've all been there," Mia said, her heart aching for the girl. "It's not easy, but if you keep going you'll get there." Elena nodded, her eyes lighting up as Mia shared stories of her own struggles. Before they left, Mia slipped Elena her card. Reach out to us. The Westwood Art Initiative has programs for young artists like you. We'd love to help. As they walked away, Ethan smiled at Mia. You're amazing, you know that? Mia laughed, nudging him playfully. It takes one to know one. Back at the Westwood estate, Robert had undergone a transformation that continued to surprise those who knew him. While he still maintained a presence in the business world, his priorities had shifted. He spent more time with his family and often attended events hosted by the Art Initiative, where he mingled with artists and supporters alike. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Eleanor made an announcement. I've been thinking, she said, setting down her glass. It's time for us to expand the initiative further. There are so many young artists out there who need support, especially in communities that don't have access to resources. Robert nodded, his eyes thoughtful. You're right. We've already seen what's possible when we invest in talent. Let's do it. Mia smiled, inspired by their commitment. I have a few ideas, she said. What if we create mobile art studios that travel to underserved areas? We could bring workshops, supplies, and mentorship directly to these communities. That's brilliant, Ethan said, his face lighting up. And we could partner with local schools to ensure the programs have a lasting impact. Robert raised his glass. To new beginnings. To making a difference, Mia added, her voice filled with determination. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ethan took Mia on a walk through the park where they had spent one of their earliest dates. The leaves painted the ground in hues of gold and red, and the air carried a hint of nostalgia. They stopped by a quiet pond, where Ethan turned to Mia, his expression serious but filled with warmth. Mia, he began, taking her hands in his, you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me what it means to live authentically, to love deeply, and to fight for what matters. Mia's heart raced as she gazed into his eyes. Ethan? He smiled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small velvet box. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me? Tears welled in Mia's eyes as she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, the world around them fading into the background. It was a moment of pure joy, the culmination of their journey together. Their wedding was a beautiful blend of their two worlds. Held in the garden of the Westwood estate, the ceremony was intimate yet elegant, with family, friends, and members of the art community in attendance. Mia walked down the aisle in a dress she had designed herself, its flowing fabric reminiscent of a canvas coming to life. Robert stood beside Ethan as his best man, a role he accepted with pride. When it came time for his toast, Robert's voice cracked with emotion. Ethan and Mia, you've taught me more than I ever thought possible. About love, resilience, and the power of believing in others. Today, I'm not just gaining a daughter-in-law, I'm gaining an inspiration. Thank you for showing me what truly matters. The guests erupted into applause, and as Ethan and Mia shared their first dance, it was clear to everyone present that their love had not only changed their lives but also those around them. Years later, Mia and Ethan stood at the opening of a new gallery dedicated to the artists supported by the Westwood Art Initiative. The space was filled with vibrant works, each piece a testament to the power of opportunity and creativity. As they toured the gallery, Ethan turned to Mia. Can you believe how far we've come? Mia smiled, her eyes glistening. It feels like a dream. It's our reality, Ethan said, wrapping an arm around her. And it's only the beginning. Standing nearby, Robert and Eleanor watched them with pride. They've created something extraordinary, Eleanor said softly. They have, Robert agreed. And it all started with a painting and a leap of faith. The Westwood family's journey had been one of transformation, fueled by love, courage, and the willingness to embrace change. Together, they had built not just a legacy but a testament to the enduring power of connection and creativity, a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Mia and Ethan's vision for the Westwood Art Initiative expanded into a global movement. They established satellite programs in underrepresented communities around the world, bringing art to places where creativity had long been stifled by lack of resources or opportunity. One of their proudest projects was in a small village in Ghana, where a mobile art studio, designed by Ethan, provided local children with their first ever opportunity to paint, sculpt, and explore their creativity. Mia traveled to oversee the project's opening and spent weeks teaching workshops. One afternoon, she sat under a large tree, surrounded by a group of eager children painting their dreams on canvas. One boy, no older than 8, shyly handed Mia his painting, a vibrant depiction of his family and their small home. "This is beautiful," Mia said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "Tell me about it." The boy smiled, pointing to the figures in his painting. "This is my mama, my papa, and me. I want to build them a big house one day." Mia's heart swelled. "You have such a big dream, and you're already building it here, with your art?" The experience reinforced her belief in the transformative power of creativity. When she returned home, she told Ethan about the boy and his painting, her voice tinged with emotion. "That's why we do this," Mia said. "To give people the tools to dream." As Mia traveled the world, Ethan focused on strengthening the foundation's financial sustainability. He developed a groundbreaking platform that allowed patrons of the arts to directly sponsor emerging artists, providing them with funds, mentorship, and exposure. The program, called The Artist's Path, quickly became a cornerstone of the Westwood Art Initiative. One day, as Ethan presented the platform to a group of potential investors, he noticed a familiar face in the audience: his father. Robert had quietly entered the room and was now watching his son with an expression of pride and admiration. After the presentation, Robert approached Ethan, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "You've become an incredible leader," Robert said. "I couldn't be prouder." Ethan smiled, the years of tension between them melting away. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. You've built something extraordinary," Robert continued. "And you've done it your way." The Westwood family's bond grew stronger with time. Eleanor, ever the matriarch, often hosted dinners that brought everyone together: Mia, Ethan, Robert, and even a growing network of friends and collaborators from the art world. One evening, during one of these dinners, Eleanor made an announcement. "I've decided to start painting," she said, her voice light with excitement. Mia beamed. "That's wonderful. What inspired you?" Eleanor glanced at Mia and Ethan. "Watching the two of you, seeing the joy and connection art brings to your lives made me realize I've always wanted to try it." The family laughed and cheered as Eleanor promised to show her first painting at the next dinner. As time went on, Mia and Ethan welcomed a child into their lives, a daughter they named Grace. From the moment she was born, Grace became the center of their world, her laughter filling their home with even more joy and purpose. Grace grew up surrounded by creativity and compassion. By the time she was old enough to hold a paintbrush, she was already experimenting with colors and shapes, her small hands mirroring her mother's movements. One day, as Grace sat in Mia's studio, painting a picture of their family, she turned to her mother. "Mama, do you think I'll be an artist like you?" Mia knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You can be anything you want to be, Grace. The most important thing is to follow your heart." Ethan, standing in the doorway, smiled as he watched them. "And if you do that," he added, "you'll always find your way." Years later, as Mia and Ethan celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Westwood Art Initiative, they stood on the stage of a grand auditorium, addressing an audience of artists, patrons, and supporters from around the world. Mia's voice was steady as she spoke, her words carrying the weight of their journey. "When we started this initiative, we had one goal: to empower artists to tell their stories. What we've achieved together is more than we ever dreamed. This is a testament to the power of creativity, connection, and love." Ethan stepped forward, his hand resting gently on Mia's shoulder. "And it's a reminder that no matter where you come from or what challenges you face, you have the power to make a difference. Thank you for believing in us and for helping us believe in ourselves." As the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation, Mia and Ethan shared a quiet smile. In that moment, they knew that their love, their work, and their legacy had created something truly extraordinary. In the twilight of their years, Mia and Ethan often sat together in their garden, reflecting on the life they had built. Surrounded by the art they had created and the love they had nurtured, they found peace in knowing that their story was one of transformation, resilience, and hope. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan took Mia's hand. "Do you remember the first time I saw your paintings?" he asked. Mia laughed softly. "How could I forget? You looked so out of place in that gallery." "And yet," Ethan said, his eyes filled with warmth, "it was the place where I found exactly where I belonged." Mia squeezed his hand, her heart full. "And I found you." As the stars began to fill the sky, they sat together in silence, their love a constant light in a world that had been forever changed by their journey. The crowd slowly filed out of the grand auditorium after the 25th anniversary celebration, but Mia and Ethan lingered near the stage, soaking in the moment. The air buzzed with warmth and energy, a culmination of years of work, love, and determination. Ethan turned to Mia, his gaze filled with quiet awe. "I still can't believe how far we've come," he said. "Do you ever stop and think about how it all started? That tiny gallery, your paintings, us?" Mia smiled, resting her head briefly against his shoulder. "I think about it all the time. It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But also like it was yesterday. I was so lost back then," Ethan said softly. "You gave me something I didn't even know I needed, freedom, purpose. And you gave me courage," Mia replied, looking up at him. "To believe in myself, to fight for what I love. You've always been my anchor." As the auditorium staff began to clean up, Robert approached them, his hands in his pockets and a rare softness in his expression. "I wanted to tell you both how proud I am," he said, his voice low but steady. "What you've built, it's incredible." Mia reached out and squeezed his arm. "Thank you, Robert. That means a lot." "I still remember the day Ethan brought you to dinner," Robert continued, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I didn't see it then, but you were exactly what he needed. Exactly what this family needed." Ethan grinned, a playful edge creeping into his tone. "Glad you finally came around, Dad." Robert chuckled, shaking his head. "Took me long enough, didn't it?" Eleanor joined them, her presence as calming as ever. "Some things are worth the wait," she said, slipping an arm around Robert's. "And this, tonight, everything, it's all been worth it." The four of them stood together in comfortable silence, a family that had been tested, reshaped, and ultimately strengthened by the choices they had made. Later that night, back at home, Mia and Ethan sat on the couch with Grace nestled between them, fast asleep. The soft glow of the fireplace illuminated the room, casting shadows over the framed artwork and photos lining the walls. Mia gently brushed a strand of hair from Grace's forehead, her heart swelling with a love so profound it felt almost overwhelming. "She's going to grow up in a world so different from the one we started in," Mia murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded, his gaze fixed on their daughter. "And she's going to know that she can do anything, be anyone, because she's surrounded by people who believe in her. Just like you believed in me." Mia leaned into him, letting the warmth of the moment wrap around them like a blanket. "We've built something beautiful, Ethan." He kissed the top of her head, his voice soft and certain. "And it's only the beginning." Years passed, and life moved forward with its usual mix of challenges and joys. Mia continued to create, her work evolving as she grew older. Each piece reflected her journey, capturing moments of love, loss, and resilience with a depth that resonated deeply with those who viewed it. Her name became synonymous with authenticity and vision, her legacy cemented as one of the most influential artists of her generation. Ethan, ever the steady force beside her, expanded the reach of the Westwood Art Initiative even further. He partnered with tech companies, global nonprofits, and educational institutions to ensure that the foundation's impact reached every corner of the world. His innovative strategies became a model for others, and his leadership was celebrated as much for his humility as for his success. Grace grew up immersed in this world of creativity and compassion. She inherited her mother's artistic talent and her father's curiosity, carving out her own path as a storyteller through film. Her work often explored themes of identity, belonging, and the complexities of human connection, and homage, in many ways, to the life her parents had built together. One evening, as the family gathered at the Westwood estate for a rare reunion, Grace showed them her latest project. A documentary chronicling the early days of the Westwood Art Initiative and the journey that had inspired it. The room fell silent as the film played, each frame a reminder of how far they had come. When it ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Grace turned to her parents, her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for showing me what it means to live with passion and purpose. I wouldn't be who I am without you." Mia and Ethan pulled her into a hug, their hearts full. "And we wouldn't be who we are without you," Mia whispered. As the night wore on, the family sat around the garden, laughter and conversation filling the air. Robert, now retired and content, looked around at his family and the life they had built together. "I used to think legacy was about wealth and power," he said quietly, his gaze distant. "But it's not. It's about love, about the people you touch and the lives you change. That's what matters." Ethan reached over, placing a hand on his father's shoulder. "You've learned that, Dad. And you've taught us, too." The stars shone brightly above them, a quiet reminder of the vastness of the world and the infinite possibilities within it. For the Westwood family, those possibilities had been realized through love, resilience, and the courage to embrace change. Mia rested her head on Ethan's shoulder as they watched Grace animatedly share her plans for the future with Eleanor. "We've done all right, haven't we?" she said softly. Ethan smiled, his hand finding hers. "We've done more than all right. We've created something lasting." As the night deepened, they stayed there together, a family united by the choices they had made and the love they had chosen to nurture. Their journey wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that made it more beautiful than they could have ever imagined.